Hey, what's up guys, Bajheera here. Now, we've got a pretty exciting batch of information concerning a potential Legion beta that may be coming soon, just because sites like MMO Champion have been able to data mine a prospective beta build for Legion and give us some pretty awesome things to look at. So, keep in mind that when you are doing data mining, I'm not an expert in this, but from what I understand, things are not always as they seem. So you may be getting information that's old information, you may be getting information that's not accurate to the way the game is actually going to be, but what is going to be fun is to take a look at some of these changes, or to take a look at some of this information, and just see what we think about it. See what's new, see what's different, and just have some fun. So this, obviously, I'm going to be going over the Warrior information that MMO Champion has able to mine, and that's where I'm getting this information from, MMO Champion. So shout outs to them, but once again, the word of wisdom and the word of caution is don't take any of this as like a law. This is just information that they've been able to drudge up from some, very early build of the presumably Legion beta that it just sort of exists somewhere where this information can be taken from. So, anyway, let's get to reading some of this. So, we have, I think at first what we're going to do is just go through the spell changes. So, Berserker Rage, it looks like it's Fury only now. It's the same as it used to be, I think. Gets you out of fear, sap, and incapacitate. Enrages you for 6 seconds. Charge, no different. Deep Wounds, but they're putting Deep Wounds back on Mortal Strike. You can see that. Mortal Strike, Bloodthirst, Devastate, and Thunderclap cause the target to bleed for an amount of damage. This one says 5 physical damage. Don't get too caught up on the numbers, I don't think. Over 15 seconds. This effect is canceled if target reaches full health. So, that's kind of how it was for Prot now, but it's going to be applied by Mortal Strike and Bloodthirst too, which is really cool. But I don't know if that means Thunderclap is going to make targets take bleeds too, because, I mean, as far as I know, ARMS still has Thunderclap, so we're going to have to see about that later on. But anyway, Deep Wounds is back. Interesting. Defensive Stance, it causes you to generate rage from taking damage instead of dealing damage. It used to be that you generated 1 rage every 3 seconds while in combat. Now you're just going to take damage and generate rage from that, which is cool. Hamstring still is just a 50% movement, speed slow. The 5% physical damage just indicates that it will be dealing damage. We don't really know how much that is. Headlong Rush, haste reduces the global cooldown, so this is not gonna, it says and the cooldown of, but for ARMS it's not gonna reduce any cooldowns. It seems like maybe it only reduces Shield Slam and Thunderclap. Maybe that pertains to ARMS too, but at least the Headlong Rush passive will make haste reduce the global cooldown still. Heroic Leap, it doesn't really seem to be changing very much except for the numbers, which is interesting. Now here's something that's exciting, potentially, is that Heroic Strike is still here. We don't know at this point in the information that we're looking at if it applies to ARMS or Fury, like those have Heroic Strike again. We don't know. Heroic Throw is still there, still the same. Intervene, still there, still the same. Intimidating Shout, still there, still the same. Obviously you have Parry, you have Spell Reflect. Now one of the things about Spell Reflect is you'll notice that any of this green text indicates something different than before. So it says raise your shield, reflecting the next spells cast on you, but look at this, and reduces magical damage taken by 30% until a spell is reflected. So if you have a bunch of dots on you and you're behind a pillar, you can put up Spell Reflect and use it kind of like a brief damage reduction thing, and then pop back out and just reflect the next spell. Obviously that's not the way that you want to use Spell Reflect if you're trying to reflect CC, but it does give you that option, which is kind of cool. You can even throw that up in a raid or something. If you're taking like raid-wide magic damage, you just throw up a Spell Reflect, and maybe like there's like a big magical damage spell that you want to reduce the damage of, and you can do it that way too, even if you don't actually reflect it, which is cool. Taunt, it looks like it taunts the target to you, but one of the things to note is that using this ability while in battle stance activates defense stance is no longer accurate, so you cannot use Taunt to swap stances anymore, which is interesting. Victory Rush is going to heal you for 30% of your maximum health, which is cool. It's going to do an amount of damage. It says, I don't know why it's only saying ARMS. I don't think, is ARMS the only one that has the ability to use this ability? I don't know. We'll see. Either way, it heals you for more than it used to. So now we're going to go down here and see that a lot of things have been removed. But don't freak out. This might mean they're just not visible, or they may actually be there removed, but we'll have to see what they've sort of been replaced with later on. But a lot of these things are like Commanding Shout, so we're not going to have a stamina buff. There's no battle stance anymore. which is pretty interesting. I wonder what that means. There's no battle shout. There's no shattering throw. There's no shield barrier. But I'm wondering if the shattering throw thing is like, we noticed that shattering throw is not there, but even though it wasn't there for WoD. So we'll see. Because remember, with WoD, you had to have a glyph for it. No more shield barrier. No more shield charge. RIP glad stance. Enhanced rend is no longer a thing. Whatever. Siege breaker offhand is no longer a thing. So those are things that when they did their data mining, I guess they didn't find them, which either means they're removed or they're different somewhere else down the line. But here's some cool stuff. In the talents and specialization section, for arms, we have cleave. So I wonder if these are talents. I'm wondering if they're talents or if they're like sort of passives that you get just from speccing into things. And I think that that kind of sounds like what it might be. Although these are an awful lot of passives. But maybe that's just how it is, because a lot of them are really powerful and cool. Let's have a look. With arms, you either have or have the option of cleave, which is a sweeping attack that strikes all enemies in front of you for 75% physical damage, so probably not a ton. But check this out. For each target up to 5 hit, your next whirlwind will deal 20% more damage, so up to 100% more damage on whirlwind. And everyone's like, oh, whirlwind again. But I don't know, whirlwind might actually have some pretty cool stuff attached to it for arms and fury. And one of the things that's cool about whirlwind here is the tactician passive. Your slam whirlwind and execute have it. Oh wow. Even execute too, have a 20% chance per target hit to reset the cooldown on Colossus Smash. So Colossus Smash as arms is going to be a huge deal. We talked about that on the Legion class preview. And I think that you're going to be wanting to reset your Colossus Smash. So if you have a lot of targets around you, you're going to want to be whirlwinding. And if you use cleave, it's going to make those whirlwinds hit even harder. And cleave used to be off the global cooldown, so the cleave whirlwind macro may still be in existence again. So we'll see about that. Either way, now you also have defensive stance, at least. So we saw that battle stance was taken out, but we have access to defensive stance as arms. So a defensive combat stance that reduces damage taken and damage done? Oh no, by 25%, lasts until canceled. Okay, so that sucks. You definitely don't want to be doing 25% less damage, but I guess that gives you sort of the option of forcing a warrior into defensive stance will make them deal less damage. So, warriors prepare to be tunneled, I guess, to be forced into a stance that does less damage. Interesting. Regardless, we have Fervor of Battle. Cleave and Whirlwind generate 2 rage for each target that they hit. So I guess here's another thing with Cleave and Whirlwind is if you want to generate more rage, that's a reason why you might want to use those things. If you have a lot of people stacked up nearby you, you can Cleave and Whirlwind them for extra rage, which is pretty cool. Mortal Combo. Mortal Strike has 2 charges, so you can. I'm definitely anticipating people doing the Colossus Smash into double Mortal Strike combo. That will be a lot of burst damage. Of course, depending on how all these abilities line up damage-wise, it's still, I think that's going to be something that you're going to want to be using. Or, alternatively, you can Mortal Strike, multiple targets and have your healing reduction on multiple targets, which is cool too. So Titanic Might says, increases the duration of Colossus Smash by 200, but halves its effectiveness. I feel like it would be weird to be forced into that. I'm not sure. So that's where I'm wondering if, these are talent options rather than spec, specific things, but maybe it could be, but I don't know why you'd be forced into that talent necessarily. Either way, we can move on to Fury. So Fury is kind of a weird spec because it has a lot of cool aspects to it, but also some weird aspects, like taking 30% extra damage when you're enraged. That's one of the things that caught me off guard, but let's look at this. Enrage. Bloodthirst, critical strikes, or activating Berserker Rage will enrage you. Increasing attack speed by 100%, very cool. But then also damage taken by 30% for 6 seconds, kind of odd. But they sort of make up for that by giving you a lot of really awesome healing too. So Enrage Regen instantly heals you for 50% of your maximum health, 50%, but requires and consumes Enrage. It is usable while stunned. So that's kind of like old Enrage Regen a little bit, in that it consumes your Enrage. But we'll see something a little bit later on down the line that might change that. Rampage. Unleash it. This is a sort of a new spin on an old ability, I believe. Unleashes a series of 5 brutal strikes over 2 seconds for a total of this amount of damage. Rampage always deals damage if you're enraged. Okay. So that's kind of like the setups. A lot of people have commented that the setup is going to be Bloodthirst Rampage, basically. Pool Rage and Rampage, which is an option. We'll see how that pans out in gameplay-wise. That's something to keep in mind for all this. All this is really cool to look at, but really got to see what it's like when you actually play the game. That's what I'm excited about. So in a Whirlwind of Steel, you attack all enemies within 8 yards. So this is how Whirlwind behaves for Fury. But also, it also increases the amount of targets that your Raging Blow will hit for 6 seconds. So 4 additional targets. So Whirlwind is going to make you a cleave machine as Fury, that's for sure. So Furious Charge, you take 20% less damage for 5 seconds after charging. Endless Rage, you generate 50% additional rage. And now, in Raging Blows, Raging Blow now generates 10 rage instead of costing rage. So these are the things, like if you stack all these together, that's a lot of really powerful passives for Fury. Which is what makes me wonder if these are talents, rather than spec-specific just passives. But either way, let's keep going. Frenzy, furiously slash the target, dealing 100% attack power, physical damage, and increasing your haste by 5% for 10 seconds. So that sounds like old Rampage, doesn't it? I feel like it is. But regardless, another thing that's increasing your attack speed and haste. Well, no, attack speed through haste. But also your GCD, remember that? Hopefully, I think that's a warrior thing. The little thing that we talking about up here. This is a tactician, I believe. Yeah. All the way up here. Or Headlong Rush, that's right. Okay. Interesting. But Heroic Strike is in the Fury talent tree, too. You see, it instantly deals 130% physical damage. Heroic Strike gains double normal damage bonus from Enrage. Wow. So Fury sound like a really, like, kind of a crazy but fun spec. Like, they really are diving all into this Berserker thing, where you're going to deal a lot of damage. You're going to be able to heal yourself a lot, but you're also going to take a lot of damage, too. Very interesting. So Reckless Abandon. Reduces the cooldown of Recklessness by 50%, but it also generates 100 rage. So you're going to be, like, ready to rock when you pop Wreck, which is pretty nuts. So this, and Bloodthirst generates an additional 10 rage. Like, I don't think that you can give all those to Fury, but, I mean, I'm not going to be mad if they do. But those do sound like a lot of really powerful passives. Alright, so Protection. You have Ignore Pain, which is a new ability we talked about. You fight through the pain, ignoring 90% of the next total, you know, it's based on your health amount, total damage that you take from any sources. So basically, like, the next health pool or something like that will be 90% reduced physical damage or something like that. But it also has Ignore Pain also enrages you, increasing the damage done by 10% for 6 seconds. So Prot has Intercept, which is either another charge basically or Intervene. But it actually generates rage for you too. So used to be Intercept, I think, costed rage, but it's a little bit different now. Indomitable increases your maximum health by 25%, and Heavy Repercussions, which is something we're familiar with. Shield Slam extends the duration of shield block, which is a new aspect to it. But it also makes your shield slams do 30% additional damage. Okay, so now we're in the general tab. So this might be, are these general talents, or you can have spec talents and then general talents, or is this like, because these, you cannot have all of these, I don't think, even though they all look really cool. So you have Overpower. So can you have Overpower as Fury or Prot? I'm wondering. But Overpower is back, which is cool. Instantly overpower the enemy, causing 125% physical damage. Cannot be blocked, dodged, or parried. Overpower has a 60% increased chance to be a critical strike, so it's really familiar to what it used to be. Your attacks have a chance to activate Overpower. So I don't know if that means that it doesn't, you know, proc off of dodges or anything like that. It just has a chance to activate. Interesting. Sweeping Strikes. This is for Arms and Prot. Well, in Arms and Prot, your Mortal Strike and Execute his second nearby target, but obviously Prot doesn't have Mortal Strike, so maybe only Execute. I don't know if that's going to be how it is. But for Fury, your Raging Blow and Execute hit a second nearby target, so okay. A little extra cleave. I don't know if Fury really needs that, though, because Raging Blows are going to cleave like crazy if you have Whirlwind, if you've used Whirlwind before. So I'm not sure how that's going to interact. But anyway, like I said, we're getting information. Not really sure how it fits in, but it's still cool to see it. So Bounding Strike. This seems awesome. It's like 2 glyphs combined into one, but takes out the negative aspect of the shorter cooldown glyph. Heroic Leap's cooldown is reduced by 15 seconds, and it also increases your run speed by 70% for 3 seconds. So basically, like I said, combines the glyphs that you have now, just takes away the downside. Seething Rage. Enraged regen no longer requires or consumes Enrage, and its cooldown is reduced by 60%. That's like really good. But like everything in this little list is really good. So you also have Dauntless. Your abilities cost 20% less rage. Imposing Roar, Commanding Shout also. So even though Commanding Shout was said to be taken out, like, it's still there somehow, because we still get mention of it. This is what I mean. But that's cool. Increases lead by 20%. Best Served Cold. Revenge generates 2 additional rage for each target it hits. Never Surrender. Ignore Pain will ignore up to 30% more damage based on your missing health. Heroic Strike. So once again, Heroic Strike is back in the mix, but it says Heroic Strike before said it gained double the normal damage bonus from in Rage. Now it says getting the double normal damage bonus from Colossus Smash. Still off the GCD, which is cool. So that suggests that it could be something that's available to Arms. Or Heroic Strike again, which is really cool. Vengeance. Ignore Pain reduces the rage cost of your next Heroic Strike by 30%. But I'm pretty sure Ignore Pain is going to be prot only. So some of these things they're not like across all specs. I feel like some of these things definitely are specific like talents that you can choose, but they're not for everybody, which is interesting. Like, I don't think Arms is going to get Vengeance if Arms doesn't get Ignore Pain, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so into the fray. You gain 5% haste for each enemy within 10 yards of the 5 enemies. So if you're doing PvE, like, and you have mobs all over the place all the time, like, into the fray might be really fun. But same thing for BGs. Like, if that's the style that Fury has, or that style that a warrior has, to just get in the mix, and you're going to get a lot of haste off of that, getting faster attacks, normal auto attacks, and lower global cooldown, that's really cool. Crackling Thunder increases the radius of Thunderclap by 100%. So that's not, like, crazy. It's definitely not as crazy as some of the things that we've seen in this talent tree, but we'll see how it interacts. Opportunity Strikes. Your melee abilities have a 30% chance based on the target's missing health. Wow. To trigger an extra attack that deals 200% physical damage. So, percent physical damage, I'm not really sure what those calculations are coming from, but still really cool. I mean, I'm guessing that your character will have a stat that's like physical damage. Like, you have a number attached to that, and that's where a lot of these things are based off of. But regardless, Demoralizing Shout also generates 50 rage. Gotta love 50 rage. Demoralizing Shout has to be like a prot thing, though. And increases your damage you deal to affected targets by 10%. So that's really neat. It's like a little offensive cooldown and defensive cooldown. And utility cooldown from probably a prot warrior. But a lot of these seem really cool. You're just not really 100% sure how they all fit into everything. So these are for all classes. They nerfed anger management substantially. It's instead. Oh wait, no. Actually, that's a buff. Yeah, that's a buff. In a way, it's a buff, but at the same time, it's a nerf because it only takes 10 rage to reduce the cooldown of your abilities, but they're only affecting certain abilities now, which is that's the kind of the nerf part of it. Is it's 10 rage for that, but only affects like shield wall and last stand. So okay, for Arms, it just reduces the cooldown of recklessness, which is still cool, but it's just not going to reduce like your abilities like Blade Storm, Shockwave, which is really fun. But that's okay. That's all right. It makes it a little bit more streamlined. It gives it a very specific purpose. It's going to reduce the cooldown of only these abilities, but reduce it substantially. So okay. Avatar, still the same. Blade Storm, still the same. Bloodbath, just says no multi-strikes because there's no more multi-strike as far as I understand in Legion. Double Time, it just says it increases the maximum number of charges by 1, but I'm pretty sure that's actually the same. They're just rephrasing it. You know what I'm saying? Dragon Roar is different. Oh, it's a buff. So you deal damage and then increase all your damage done by 20%. Wow, that's cool. Okay, so that's like another damage percent increase for warriors. Wow. So if you don't want to have like a stun, presumably if it's the same talent as it was before with the stun talents, then you can just say, okay, I don't really care about a stun. I just want to do more damage. That's interesting. But I wonder how it's going to fit into the talent scheme. Very cool for Dragon Roar though. I like that. It brings me back, dude. The Dragon Roar Avatar days. You're gonna have a lot of damage, and it still does damage too. It actually does more damage. Cool. Let's see. Impending Victory. Your slam has a 40% chance to restore 10% of your health. Ooh, interesting. That's different than it was before. Wow. Okay, that's kind of cool. Just random chance to heal yourself off of using an ability that you use fairly often. It's a 40% chance too. That's not a low chance at all. So Juggernaut, same thing as it was before. 12-second charge instead of 20. Mass Butterflex, same thing as it was before. Ravager, it's just saying it changes the amount of damage it does. Safeguard looks like the same. So Second Wind, this is a very, very interesting change. It looks like it's taken out the part where you leech health, but it's changed to you gain 6% health every 1 second when you haven't taken damage in the last 5 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can get out of combat and have no dots on you or anything like that and not take damage, then you're going to be healing for a lot. But that's that's very odd for a warrior to run away from battle to heal, I guess. But I mean, if you can get yourself free of dots and out of combat, I guess, away from damage for 5 seconds, I guess you're going to be doing a lot of healing. But it seems a little unlikely to me that you'll never have dots on you. and that would stop your second wind. But who knows? You know, it seems like a cool option. It's at least something to think about. Shockwave hasn't really changed. Stormbolt hasn't really changed. Sudden Death, they just sort of changed the wording of it. I don't think there's any real big changes. Vigilance, there's no change. Let's see, Warbringer, it just, I guess it affects Intercept now instead of Charge. Interesting. But yeah, it makes him stun instead of be rooted. Okay. Arms, Colossal Smash. It doesn't talk about armor anymore, but it increases all damage you deal to them by 20%. So that's pretty cool. I guess, is this, yeah. So it's still dealing damage, okay. But it doesn't make any mention of armor besides the lore aspect of it. And you just increase damage for 6 seconds. But it also doesn't require you to be in battle stance anymore. So you can maybe use this in defensive stance if you wanted to. So you're not being forced into a stance anymore, it doesn't look like, which is cool. Die by the Sword is getting buffed. The damage reduction is 30% now instead of 20. Execute, pretty much the same. Arms now has a new mastery called Colossal Might. We talked about this. Pretty much it increases the damage of your Colossal Smash and increases the damage it increases, if that makes sense. Cause it to increase damage you deal to the target by an additional 20%. So your mastery is buffing Colossal Smash and buffing the damage it does, or the damage increase on your target, basically. So I think mastery stacking is still going to be a really good option for warriors. Mortal Strike is actually getting buffed. And it does not replace Heroic Strike anymore. So that's really cool. So yeah, your Mortal Strike is still going to deal a lot of damage, but you also have the option of Heroic Strike potentially. So Rallying Cry has been changed to Commanding Shout. So basically it still does the same thing, but it's just different. It's just a different ability. Different ability name. So Recklessness, this I don't know if this doesn't replace anything, but I don't know if you have Battle Shout anymore, but now this is Recklessness. But check this out. So it increases your special attack's crit chance by 100% for 5 seconds. So everything with it for 5 seconds is going to crit. Everything. So Colossus Smash, double Mortal Strike, Execute. That's conceivably within around a 5-second window right there. All crits, that's going to be huge. And your Rend ticks and stuff like that at the same time. Might crit as well. That's insane. So wounds your target. Rend is going to deal a little bit less damage. And it's going to be only 15 seconds long. Okay. So it doesn't have the... I don't think it has the burst at the end. So it's just damage. A little bit less damage too. But you're still going to want to rend things. Seasoned Soldier got nerfed a little bit. Went down to 10%, 15%. That's all right. So Siege Breaker. For Fury, it looks... I guess Fury is just hitting with both weapons. For Prot, you're dealing 450% damage. Okay. I don't know if Prot uses Siege Breaker, but there you have the option of it. Slam. Looks like Slam's going to be kind of a big part of our rotation as a warrior. It's just going to deal straight up 150% damage, which is pretty standard, I guess, for like just a normal attack. Taste for Blood. Now, is this just passives? Because Taste for Blood, each time Ren deals damage, you get in 3 range. That's really cool. That's a fun mechanic, and just have it just baseline is pretty cool. Arms does still have Thunderclap, and I'm wondering if you can still... So are you going to be able to apply Deep Wounds and Rend? Because that's kind of what it suggested early on when we were reading about Deep Wounds. So, like I said, all these things, there's a lot of questions that they leave, but that's okay. Whirlwind, just dealing 80% damage, okay? For now we're down to Fury, so some things may change here. Fury is going to deal... Bloodthirst looks like it's going to deal a pretty good amount of damage. 175% physical damage, it seems like a fair amount. It's going to generate 10 rage and restore 5% of your health. And of course, it has a 40% increased chance to be a critical strike, but does not replace Heroic Strike anymore. So Heroic Strike does seem to be back in the mix. I'm just not 100% sure how. Die by the Sword is still 30%. It looks like they actually changed the damage scaling maybe a little bit. Yeah, it's just 420%. And yeah, okay. That looks like a buff to me. Maybe? It's always kind of tough to tell. But yeah, so Fury still has Execute, but might do more damage though. Unshackled Fury says it increases the damage done while enraged by 11%. I need to look at their mastery though. I'm wondering if that's going to change. Meat Cleaver, we already read about this a little bit. Using Whirlwind increases the number of targets that Raging Blow hits. We still have Piercing Howl, which is cool. I like that AoE slow. Raging Blow, I don't think the damage is changing at all there, just by the looks of it. But it is still only usable while enraged, which is how it was before. They're just probably changing the text of it. Commanding Shout, once again, it replaces Rallying Cry, pretty much the same thing. Recklessness, same thing. big damage there. Siege Breaker, same thing. Single Amount of Fury, same thing. Whirlwind, same thing. Wild Strike, it looks like it says 0% chance of getting 0 charges, but I don't know if that means that they're taking out that proc, or that's just they don't have the numbers yet. Okay, interesting. Did we not get mention of? Okay, I guess this is still its mastery then. But why did it say? Yeah. So okay, I'm an idiot. Obviously that's still their mastery, but I imagine this will be able to be scaled up, just like every other mastery, percentage-wise. Okay, so that's all. That's Fury. Fury looks very similar, but we already learned a lot about Fury earlier on. So Prod has a lot of different stuff. Check this out. Bastion of Defense increases your block chance by 15%, your dodge by 2%. It reduces the cooldown of your shield wall by 1 minute. That's just speccing into Prod, I think, gives you that. We have Bladed Armor again, though, which is not the same. You know, it used to be that your attack power was increased by your mastery. I don't think Bladed Armor has been in for a while, though, which is cool. Demoralizing Shout, once again, it's back in the game, but it also maybe increases the damage that you deal to them and gives you rage if you wanted that talent, I believe. Devastate looks like it's the same. Execute looks like it's the same. Heavy Repercussions, we talked about that. Last Stand. It's kind of like Commanding Shout, but it's still Last Stand. Mastery is critical block. That's so. Their mastery is the same, but it does still increase your attack power. Okay, so you're going to get attack power from armor and mastery. Cool. Revenge is dealing in like a cleave now. It's just designed that way. Not really hitting an extra target, but it could potentially hit many extra targets because it's just like a little, just swinging a wide arc. That's how it works. Pretty cool. Dodges and parries with the cooldown, but revenge cannot occur more than once every 3 seconds. Okay. Riposte, that's already in the game, I believe. Shield block, it looks, yeah, like we talked about that, the way it works with Shield Slam, I believe. Shield Slam generates rage, but only 6 rage. It used to be a lot more rage than that. It used to be 20 rage. Yeah, I don't think revenge generates rage anymore either, so you're gonna have to rely on taking a lot of damage to generate more rage, as Prod looks like. So Sword and Board, that's pretty much that's the way it is already. Thunderclap is dealing more damage now. Unyielding Strikes, Devastate reduced. Yeah, we already know that one. That's cool too. So here's some perk changes. I don't know if I don't think really anything has changed actually. Improved block and improved defense stance are really the only perks that have changed for warriors in general. So they removed like every glyph apparently. Apparently all these glyphs have been removed. So I don't know what that's going to leave us with, but I guess we'll find out. But yeah, everything has been removed. All these glyphs. I mean, I don't know if this means every single glyph is removed. I don't want to go through and like sort of cross-check, but yeah, all these glyphs have been removed, which means that we're either going to get new cool glyphs or glyphs aren't going to be that big of a deal. So we'll see. Either way, these are the warrior changes, guys. These are some of the things that, well, warrior changes that have been data mined and may or may not reflect what warriors actually look like. But I think they're pretty cool. I think there's a lot of cool things that we've seen. You know, recklessness changed. Obviously, the way shouts work has changed. There have been big talent changes. There's some really exciting aspects, but there's so much more to learn still. And we still have to find out how all this information fits in, and even if it exists in the way that we're sort of understanding it. But regardless, you can take this information for what it is, which is some data mined potential beta info, and get excited about it if you want to, make some predictions if you want to. Either way, just wanted to share this with you guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Peace!